Ravada Barava says, Veishet v'lei kana. It means only the food pipe. Ma yachad. So what does it mean, one? Miyuchad, the special one, the unique one. Echad means one. It's a different emphasis. It means just the food pipe. Okay, now the siman for the following is shachat would be the first brisa. Chatzoyin, gargeres, begima, dechatas oif. I think the chatas oif is going to go together. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 proofs. No. Meisvei. We have a question here on one of the opinions. Shachat esaveshet. So we're quoting from a brisa that we actually learned this brisa before. It's a Tosefta. He slaughters the food pipe. Somehow he got to the food pipe first. Maybe slaughtering through the side, he slaughtered the food pipe. And then the gargeres gets dislocated. Ksheira, that's valid. Nishmata gargeres, let's say the windpipe gets... Gargeres is another word for the kana. I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. So if it starts off with the windpipe getting dislocated, and then he slaughters the food pipe, that's psula. It was already a treifa beforehand. Shachat esaveshet. If he slaughters the veshet, v'nimtzas gargeres shemuta, and he finds that the gargeres was dislocated. When did this happen? He doesn't know. Was it before the shechita or after? That's a big difference. Because if it's before the shechita, it's a treifa. If it's after he shechted the veshet, then it's all good. So, this was a story. And they said, Kol safek b'shechita psula. Any doubt in shechita, we are always strict, and it's puzzle. Okay, now, if you look at these cases, when we're discussing the shechita, we're looking for an example of shechita. One pipe is shachat, one pipe is dislocated. Which pipe were we using to teach us the shechita? Only the veshet. If it didn't matter which one you shecht, like according to Rabbi Menachem, you can shecht either the trachea or the esophagus. It doesn't matter which one. So then, why didn't you choose one of the cases to be? Or he shechted the trachea, and the esophagus was dislocated. Why didn't we use that as an example? The reason why you didn't use it as an example must be because shechting the trachea is not enough. That's not the one we're talking about. It's the proof to Ravada Barava that you need to shecht the veshet. That's the only example that we used in the whole brisa. Ve'ilu shchita begargeres like tani. It never chose that example of the shechita by the windpipe. The Gemara answers, Mishum degargeres avidah lishtamute. Because of the other aspect here, we're looking for something that could get dislocated. What could get dislocated? The esophagus doesn't get dislocated. That's attached to the stomachs. It's all one long pipe. Doesn't get detached. But the trachea could get dislocated from the top or from the bottom. So that is the one that we wanted to use as for an example for being dislocated. So therefore we're discussing shechita by the other one. But the truth is that the shechita could also be by the trachea, and that would be enough.
When it says kol safek b'shechita psula, it's referring to that it's midoraisa.
Yeah.
So that's a halacha.
Yeah. It doesn't tell us though that it's a bird. Right?
The gargeres and all of this has to do with a bird or with a.
They all have the same.
It has to be a bird.
Yeah.
It has to be because we're talking about a bird. We're talking about one.
You're right.
If you only shechted
You're
one,
right.
it has to
You're
be
right.
a
It's a
bird.
bird. You're right.
So
You're right.
that
100%.
shows that it's midoraisa.
You're right. You're right. Very good. Very good. Yeshikaya. What coffee did you have this morning?
No, it's a little shot up.
His coffee, he brought a new one.
Very good. It is referring to a bird. It's clear that it's a bird because it's one. Thank you.
I think it was the little whiskey before. Never had that before.
That'll do it.
Please, many happy returns.
Okay. Yeshikaya. Tashima, come and listen. Shachat shnei chatzos simanim ba'oif. He cuts 2 halves of the simanim by a bird. Psula. it's puzzle. Because you need to do the majority of one of them. You didn't do the majority of one of them. You did 2 halves. Sorry, it's not good enough. It's definitely not good enough for an animal because you need to do the majority of both. In other words, by the bird, you would look at it and you say, look, this pipe doesn't have a shear. You look at that pipe, that doesn't have a shear. It's not valid. Rabbi Yehuda says, you need to shech the veshet and the veins or arteries. We had a machlekes before, what it's referring to. Now, what's Rabbi Yehuda's choice of pipes that he wants to tell us? He says he chooses the veshet. He could have said he didn't say that. He says the veshet. That means that he's following the opinion of Ravada Barava. That you need. Ravada Barava is following his opinion. He's a Tana. So, but it's a proof to Ravada Barava's view. So the Gemara explains Mishum Deveset Samach Levridin. What he means is that the veshet is the one that's closer to the veins, and that's why he's saying that you need to shech the veins. He says the veshet and the veins because they would go together. They would get slaughtered together. Now, it's not just the proof wasn't really from just Rabbi Yehuda. The proof was really from the Tanna Kama as well, because they're only arguing about the veins. So we would assume here that when Rabbi Yehuda says you have to shech the veshet and the veins, the Tanna Kama argues on the veins, but they also would hold that you need to shech just the veshet. They say no.
What does it mean?
That you thought you're going to do instead of doing the majority of one, you did half of each. Let's say you shechted from the side.
But why wouldn't that be a refute of Ravada Barava? Why do we even
Because-
care about 2 if
no,
it's only 1?
Right, because I need a shear by 1.
No, Ravada Barava says Veshet.
Veshet, only the veshet, right?
So it's a refute on Ravada Barava.
No, it's puzzle.
But from the fact that he mentioned both,
Oh,
that means,
that's
why isn't that a refute?
no,
of
because
Ravada
I can always say that I'm trying to tell you a chiddush. That even though you're saying that it doesn't tell me anything.
It doesn't tell you anything.
Right.
What's a hush? Because
Right.
if it has to be Veshet Leikone,
Then why are you adding that in? Why are you even adding that
It doesn't make
in?
even a difference if you have 2. You would only have 1.
No, because I could have thought. I know that the kana does something. At least by an animal, it does something. I need the
But here
majority
it
of
says
both.
ba'oif.
I understand, but I could have thought that maybe you have the majority of, you have half of this, and you throw in half of that. That should be good enough. You say no, it's not good enough.
Yeah, but
If
that's,
Ravada Barava says Veshet Leikone, the Kone
I
is
hear.
totally irrelevant.
I hear.
Very strange.
but there is a this doesn't make sense component to it, because if you cut either of those tubes, it doesn't kill the animal. It's cutting the veins that kills the animal. That's what never makes sense when you actually sit down and say, "Oh, it's meant that you have to do this." It's the animal might, could even live. It's not. It's like the reason that they take the shear on that is because the veins are so thin and slimy that you'd never be able to tell if you cut them all the way through.
We're going to learn soon about the veins.
I mean, it's got to be something like that. It just
We're going to learn soon
This
about the
doesn't make
veins.
any sense otherwise. That they're in the same location. You can't help but cut the veins if you cut this all the way halfway through.
Uh-huh.
It's
But
the
we'll
only
see
way it
exactly
makes
what we'll
sense.
see regarding the life and death of it. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the fact that he mentions the veshet was because he wants to cut the vridim.
He
Wow.
watches 10 minutes fast. And I saw
Wow.
it yesterday. He watches 10 minutes fast.
I don't know what happened
He
to the
just
time.
blew-
I
no,
thought
he
it
just
was
blew his whole
Tashma.
his whole wife's reality. He just blew.
Well, let's see if we can get to the end of it here. I'm sorry, I didn't realize the time. Shachat chatzi gargeres. So when shechs half of the windpipe, b'shah kadei shchita acheres, and he pauses, which is not allowed in shchita. V'gomer shchita, and then he concludes the shchita kshera. It's valid. It doesn't say how he concludes the shchita. My love, ba'ith, it must be by a bird. In my gamra legargeres. He paused in the middle. We said that a hole in the trachea is not a treifa. So halfway through is nothing. You need to get the majority. Where's the majority? Only the second half. You can get the second half after the majority. So the first half was nothing. So he paused, and then he finishes the second half. So you see, you only have to cut the gargaris. It's a proof to Rav Nachman. Where it says loy bebehema. When it says gamra and he completes, it's not referring to the bird where you only have to finish one. It's gamra l'shchita, and it's talking about where he finished both, because it's an animal. My gamra l'shchita kula, and he finished both. So it doesn't tell me what's the din by a bird. Tashma, another proof. Let's say there was a hole already in the kana. How do you pronounce it? Tracheotomy? Tracheostomy? Something like that. And then he comes along with his knife and he finishes the shchita because there was already a hole there. And he finishes the shchita, it's kosher. My lav ba'if, or my gamru. What does it mean he finishes it? He completes it. Gamru lakani, he finishes cutting the windpipe. Gemara says la ibebehema. My gamru, what does it mean he completes? Gamru leveshet. So there was no proof from that either. It just says he completes. It doesn't say which one he completed. We're just saying that it's not a treifa from the hole that was there.
Didn't you say that in the veshet, if there's a smallest hole?
It's a treifa, but here it's a hole in the kana.
Oh, okay. I said finish.
Tashma, Kates and Malk and Chatas Oif. How do you do Malikan on a Chatas Oif where the rule
It
is?
says more leveshet.
Yeah. But that's not the proof. The proof.
So if it's leveshet, how could he finish a veshet that had a hole?
No. My Gamru, what does he need to finish? He says Gamru, he's finishing the Shechita. It doesn't say what he's finishing. So we thought it meant finishing the Kana and then it's valid. He said, no, he finishes cutting the Veshet. And it's Ravada Barava, where you have to cut the Veshet. Okay. Tashma, Ketzan Malkin Chatas Oif. How do you do an incision on the Chatas Oif? Chaytich Shidra Mafarekas B'lei Rav Basar. You have to cut. You see, you're not allowed to sever the head by the Chatas Oif. You're doing Malika, you're putting the nail through the back, but you only cut one of the pipes. So you break through the spine. You don't cut the flesh, because that would have turned it into a treifa, or a nevela possibly. Ad shemagia leveshet, until you reach the veshet, oilakana, or the windpipe. Higia leveshet alakana, chaytich simen echad v'rayv basar imay. You cut one simen. It's a proof. This is a clear proof. You only have to cut one, and it doesn't matter which one. And then you cut the flesh. Uba Eily shnayim. By Eily you have to cut both, because that's the rule. By the Eily you have to cut two pipes. Oy Rav shnayim, or the majority of both. Tiyufta de Ravada Barava. Tiyufta. Is this a strong question on Ravada Barava? Yes, it's a strong question on Ravada Barava.
So that's special milika.
You could have, but we're assuming that this halacha by the bird, that part would have been the same. That's true. That's the difference in the malika is, do you do it with the nail and do you do it from the back?
So many differences in malika that he could have answered and said, no, that's special for malika. That's not for shchita of a knife.
That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
The Gemara now says, let's see. My habi Allah. What's the conclusion here? My habi Allah kedamit. We just concluded. No, says no. Dilmashani hasam de kashidra mafarekas. Maybe you're cutting through the spine. Malika is different. Malika, it doesn't matter if you cut the kana, because you've already cut the spine. So the spine with the kana, that's going to be the shchita. So what actually is the conclusion? Tashma, there was this goose, or a duck, that was in the house of Rava. Asakim masmas kuadama. It came, its neck was dirtied with blood. Now there's some sort of injury on the neck. Could be it's a treifa already. It's hard to know. Amar Rava hechinavid. Rava says, what should we do? Nishchete, if we're going to shecht it, v'hadin nivdekei, and then we're going to examine to see what the problem is. We'll look inside. We'll take it apart. You see, dilma b'makav nekev kashachet. Maybe the shchita, the knife, is going to go straight through the hole in the veshet, precisely in that spot, and you'll never be able to examine it. That's going to be difficult. Nivdekei v'hadar nishchetei. Let's examine it first, and then we'll shecht it. There's a problem with the esophagus. You can't really examine it because there's two layers of skin on the esophagus. There's an outer layer and an inner layer. The outer layer is red. The inner layer is white. The outer layer can't be examined if there's a hole, if it's punctured. So the only way to examine the esophagus is to cut it open and to examine the inside as well. So you can't examine it. So Amalei Rav Yosef Brei, Rav Yosef, the son of Rava, says, Nivdekei lakana. Let's examine the kana. V'nishchetei lakana. The kana we can examine. And then we'll just slaughter the kana. That way we know we're not slaughtering it precisely through where the injury was, because that we can examine. There was no, right? That you can examine from the outside. V'lichsherei. And just cutting the kana is enough. Rav Nachman's opinion. Then once we've made the animal kosher, then we'll open it up and we'll check the veshet from inside. And we'll see if the injury was in the veshet. Amar Rava says, Chakim Yosef pri betrefes ke Rabbi Yochanan. Yosef, my son, is as wise as Rabbi Yochanan in trefes. The Gemara later on says that Shmuel sent 13 animals, let's say camels, loaded up with questions of papers of questions that he wrote on trefes to Rabbi Yochanan to get answers. That's a very interesting Gemara later on. But so he says, Yosef, my son, is as wise as Rabbi Yochanan in trefes. Alma echad kamar oihai, which means that the one that you cut is either this one or that one. Let me stop it.